What are you at, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Lycos, and this is going to be a No Man's Sky new player guide where I show you how to get the best start in No Man's Sky. I'm going to show you how to go from a completely new player to having over 100 million units, a very nice ship, and more just within the first couple of hours of playing No Man's Sky. Now this guide is going to be a pretty fast paced guide. There's going to be a ton of information in this guide, so if you want to use this as a reference later on in your playthrough, that might be a good idea. And if you're looking for a more slow pace, in-depth guide, I'll make sure to link my more in-depth new player guide at the end of this video. Now the beginning tutorial in No Man's Sky is actually pretty good, and it will teach you all the basics of No Man's Sky. But a couple of basic tips that I have for you that you should start doing right from the start is, number one, make sure you're mining resources right off the bat. You're going to need quite a few resources early on in this game. You're going to be repairing and crafting quite a bit of tech early on in the game, from your multi-tool to your ship. So stocking up on resources is always a great idea. So at the beginning of the game, you're just going to follow the in-game tutorial. Keep in mind that the game is always telling you exactly what you need to do down in the bottom right hand corner. And you can also press options and go over to log, and in there you can see a more detailed description of all of the missions that you currently have. Another thing that I recommend that you do right from the start is use your analysis visor to scan everything. This is going to get you some initial units, and when you upload the discoveries, it's going to get you some nanites as well. So on the first planet, you're going to learn the basics, you're going to repair your ship, take off out into space, and then you're just going to head to your second planet. There, the game is going to teach you a few more things, such as building a base, and I recommend that you just build a small outpost. You don't need anything fancy early on in the game. This section of the game is great for learning the basics of base building, but now we're going to skip a little further ahead in the playthrough. Now a tip for making some very good early game units. As you're going through the tutorial, it always brings you to one of these buildings in order to learn how to make the warp cells for your warp engine. That allows you to travel from system to system. But one thing that you should definitely make sure to do while you're at this building is farm up all of the little purple eggs that are around the building. Now there are going to be some nasty creatures that are going to come out and try to attack you. They're usually fairly easy to avoid, but if you get into a bit of trouble, all I do is just fly up to the top of the building. Some people dig holes and then shoot the eggs from down below. For me, that takes too much time. It's much easier just to fly up to the top of the building, and I never really have too much trouble getting all of the larval cores that come from these eggs. Now with the larval cores, you can sell them for a good amount of units, but you can also put them into your refiner and refine them into nanites. Now let's talk a little bit about the space station. One of the most important things that you're going to want to do early on in the game is to expand your inventory. So on one side of the space station, you're going to see that there's a whole bunch of upgrade vendors. You can buy upgrades for your ship, multi-tool, exosuit, and your exocrafts in this location. And I recommend that you do two things here. Number one, make sure you unlock an extra inventory slot. And number two, check the vendors to see if they sell any good S-Class upgrades. I always check to see if they have any good S-Class upgrades. That way I can keep it in mind and then teleport back here later on when I want to get S-Class upgrades from my ship or my multi-tool. Now there are a lot of other things on the space station, and you should definitely explore the space station once you get there. Make sure you check out everything, and we'll be talking more about the space station later on in this video. Now another key point that everyone comes across in No Man's Sky early on in their playthrough is when you find your first crash ship. And this is another very good opportunity to make a few million units. This early on in the game, I actually don't recommend that you keep this ship for yourself. I recommend that you only repair the engines and the thrusters in order to be able to take off and go up to the space station. You're going to use the ship outfitting station to scrap the ship, and you're going to get scrap that's worth millions of units, and you're also going to get some upgrades. The ship that I found was an A-class, so I'm actually going to keep the A-class upgrades that I got to put on my own ship, but you can also sell them to an upgrade vendor to get some nanites. Now the next important thing that I want to talk about is the Anomaly. Early on in your playthrough, you're going to get to the Anomaly. This is a player hub for No Man's Sky, and there are a lot of really useful and cool things that you can do on the Anomaly. I highly recommend just exploring around the Anomaly and checking out everything that's there, because it's a really cool spot. The game is actually going to direct you to certain important areas and important NPCs that you're going to want to meet in the game. For instance, this guy here, you can give him discovery data, and in return he'll give you nanites. And very close by there's another NPC that you can give milestone data to, and he'll give you nanites as well. Now, another important area that the game is going to direct you to that you need to take the time and check out is this area right here. You can pick up tons of useful blueprints here. Most of them cost nanites. You can also unlock an extra inventory slot here as well, so that for every system that you go to, you can unlock an inventory slot on the space station and on the Anomaly. And I recommend that you definitely pick up 2 inventory slots in every system, especially early on in the game. So I highly recommend that you check out this entire area, check out all the blueprints that they have to offer, see if you would want any of them. For me, I'm picking up a ship weapon that I need here. I'm going to be getting the infra knife and getting a very useful upgrade for it as well. And this weapon is going to be very useful later on for one of my favorite methods to earn lots of units and nanites. Not to mention getting one of the best ships in the game. I'm also picking up the scatter blaster for my multi-tool. This is a very good multi-tool weapon. This is not a crucial thing to pick up, but if you're gonna get a multi-tool weapon, the scatter blaster is one of the best. And as soon as you have enough nanites, I highly recommend that you pick up the phase beam as well. This weapon is not super powerful, but it can actually recharge your shields, so it makes it very useful. Now we're gonna have to craft all of these blueprints that we're picking up, so we're gonna need the materials to be able to craft them. And all I'm gonna do is go back to a space station and then keep checking the different pilots that are flying in until I find the crafting materials that I need. But with all of this installed onto our ship, now we're ready to head to a dissonant system and start farming some interceptor ships. Now it's very easy to find a dissonant system. You're going to be looking at all the different systems that are close by. Most of the systems that you're going to see are going to say water on them, and then we're just looking for, instead of water, it's going to say dissonant. These systems are pretty common, so it shouldn't take too long. Once we found the dissonant system, we're going to be looking for a dissonant planet, heading down to the planet and getting into a fight with the corrupted sentinels. We're going to be looking for sentinels that look like this, that have a purple flag on their back. You can start taking them out on foot, or you can stay in your ship and destroy them that way. We're going to be getting some useful things from these sentinels, but the biggest thing that we're going to be looking for is just to get their attention, fly out into space, and then fight the interceptors that come after us. We're going to fight wave after wave of interceptor until a sentinel capital ship warps in, and then we're going to take out that sentinel capital ship. As we're fighting these interceptors, we're going to be switching back and forth between our infra knife and our beam weapon. The beam weapon is going to recharge our shields for us, and the infra knife should take the enemy ships out very quickly. Now, another new player tip that I have for you, as far as combat goes, I highly recommend when you're fighting enemy ships to put your ship into reverse, and this will automatically track your target for you. With the right upgrades and the right weapons, you should be able to take on the sentinels no problem. And if you find that you're having troubles, just go and farm more nanites and get some more upgrades for your infra knife and for your shields. So once we take out the sentinel capital ship, we're going to get a dreadnought AI unit, and then we can use that AI unit to find an interceptor ship. Now this works similar to the regular crash ships, but the interceptors are actually much easier to repair. Everything that you need to repair these ships can be found on the dissonant planets. The radiant shards are large crystals found all over the planet. You'll be able to find them very easily. The mirrors you get from destroying the sentinels that I talked about earlier, the ones that have the flags that stick up from their back. And then the brains are super easy to get as well. You just take the brain out of the interceptor, activate it, and it will show you exactly where you need to go to get the brain to put back into the interceptor. So I'm going to spend the next little while farming these interceptor ships. So after farming the sentinel ships for a little while, I've only farmed 4 or 5. I actually warped to one other dissonant system and farmed some more over there. I ended up finding a very good A-class interceptor ship, and after scrapping 4 or 5 interceptor ships, I currently have 2,000 nanites, but I also spent a bunch on getting more upgrades for my new interceptor ship. So I now have an amazing ship with some very good upgrades, enough units to pretty much last me through my entire playthrough. I was also able to get a pretty good sentinel multi-tool from another item that you get when you're fighting the sentinels. This item works in a similar way to the Dreadnought AI units, and I was only able to track down a C class, but this is a pretty good upgrade from your starting multi-tool. We are off to an amazing start. I can't wait to continue with this playthrough and make more guides for you guys. If you're looking for more No Man's Sky guides, there's a couple on the screen right now. Thank you all for watching, and as always, stay where you're at, and I'll come where you too. Later everyone.